There are two kinds of monsters in the world, the ones who hide in the dark, and the ones who hide in the light. Light Yagami was both, a boy who walked through crowds with the calm composure of someone who mastered life at 15, a son parents envied, a student teachers praised, a prodigy who should have been a symbol of hope, but instead became a mirror for everything we fear about intelligence without empathy. Some stories begin with tragedy. This one begins with boredom, with a young mind too sharp for its own world, too aware of the cracks in the systems meant to protect us, too frustrated by the suffering that everyone else accepted as normal. Before he ever touched the death note, Light Yagami was already fractured, the face he showed the world, and the voice he heard in his mind, a sliding mask. This entire story is about that mask, the identity he built, the identity he hid, and the identity that eventually devoured him. Roll credits, fade to black, a low hum of a psychological storm begins forming beneath the silence. Light Yagami enters the screen the way a predator enters a field, silent, composed, unchallenged. He is not arrogant, he is not dramatic, he is not unhinged, he is bored, and boredom, for someone like Light, is dangerous. Imagine carrying intelligence like a burden rather than a gift. Imagine seeing corruption so clearly that the world feels diseased. Imagine living with a moral compass so sharp that it cuts you first. That was Light. His brilliance wasn't simply academic, it was existential. He saw the world as a broken machine. Injustice was a malfunction. Crime was disorder. Criminals were variables to be removed. Not punished, not forgiven, removed. A mind like this does not dream softly, it calculates. And yet he smiled. He played the perfect son. He recited the perfect answers. He obeyed the perfect rules. Light didn't wear a mask out of deception. He wore it out of obligation. The world expected a prodigy. He delivered one. But beneath that carefully assembled identity was a truth he never spoke. Light Yagami believed the world was beneath him. Not metaphorically, literally. He didn't see classmates, he saw mediocrity. He didn't see humans making mistakes, he saw failures of discipline. He didn't see criminals, he saw flawed algorithms waiting to be rewritten. The death note did not corrupt Light. It freed him. It allowed the two halves of his identity to finally separate. The Light he played for society, and the Kira he had always been inside. This is where the mask began to slide. There's a moment in every human life when morality stops being theoretical. For Light, that moment came when he wrote a stranger's name on a piece of black paper. The scene is quiet, almost serene. But something inside him breaks open. When the criminal collapses on screen, Light doesn't gasp. He doesn't tremble. He observes. He is not horrified by what he has done, he's fascinated that it worked. The first name was not an act of justice. It was an experiment. Science dressed as morality. In that instant, his two identities rip apart. Light, the boy. Light, the god. The split isn't chaotic or dramatic. It is clean, effortless, almost graceful. The death note didn't create Kira. It simply unlocked the room where Kira had been pacing for years. People think Light's descent begins slowly. It doesn't. It begins immediately. The death note doesn't create corruption. It creates certainty. It gives Light what he has secretly craved. A reason to act. A mission to fulfill. A purpose worthy of his intellect. And in the glow of that realization, Light smiles. A smile that is equal parts beautiful and terrifying. He is not happy that he killed someone. He is happy that he finally feels alive. Ryuk is not a devil, not a mentor, not an accomplice. Ryuk is a mirror, a creature who reflects Light's truest self back at him. Without judgment, without interference, Ryuk watches Light with the same cold amusement that Light uses when watching criminals on the news. In this symmetry lies the essence of their bond. Light and Ryuk are the same kind of monster, except Ryuk is honest about it. Ryuk craves entertainment. Light craves justification. Ryuk admits he does things because he wants to. Light insists he does things because he must. Ryuk has no illusions. Light has only illusions. Every conversation between them strips away another layer of Light's humanity. Ryuk never pushes him. Light walks willingly into the abyss. And that is the darkest truth. Light needed no help becoming Kira. He was already halfway there. To understand Light's metamorphosis, you must understand why Kira becomes a global phenomenon. Kira is not just a killer. He is the symptom of a world drowning in fear. A world where people feel powerless, ignored, betrayed by the systems that promise protection. The public doesn't love Kira's ideology. They love the idea of someone finally taking action. Even if that action is monstrous, Kira is comfort in the shape of terror. Light sees this. He weaponizes it. He begins to believe the public worships him for his morality, not his violence. This is where the mask slides deeper. Light's two identities, the student and the god, stop competing and begin collaborating. Light maintains the facade, Kira directs the movement, but collaboration demands sacrifice. Light cannot be human if Kira is to survive. Kira cannot be divine if Light is caught. So the boy and the god negotiate in the shadows of his mind, and the sliding mask begins to tilt, slowly, inevitably, toward Kira. Then comes L. L enters the narrative like a crack across a flawless surface, crooked posture, unshaven face, eyes that see everything and nothing. Light wears masks, L wears none. That alone is enough to threaten Light. Where Light is polished, L is raw. Where Light hides emotion, L displays it. Where Light choreographs every gesture, L acts purely from instinct. L is not just Light's rival, he is Light's reflection, the one person on Earth who can meet him intellectually, morally, strategically. But he does something even more dangerous. He sees Light not as a prodigy, but as a suspect. Light, for the first time, feels vulnerable, and fear is the final ingredient Kira needed. When L speaks Light's name aloud, Light Yagami, there is a microscopic shift in Light's expression, a twitch, a spark, a fracture. He realizes he is no longer pretending to be Kira. He is Kira, and Kira feels fear. Light becomes paranoid, hyper-aware, obsessive, calculating every breath, every step, every sentence. He doesn't descend into madness. He descends into management. Kira becomes the dominant identity. Light becomes the disguise. The mask has slid so far it no longer hides the truth. It protects the lie. By the time Misa Remain enters the story, Light is already too fractured to return. Misa is not a love interest. She is a prophecy. She represents the kind of devotion Light will eventually demand from the world. She loves not the man, but the mask, and Light treats her accordingly. He does not love her. He does not care for her. He does not even pity her. He uses her. Misa becomes proof that Light's humanity is gone. His emotions are now tools. His relationships are now currency. His words are now weapons. Everything he does is strategic. Everything he expresses is calculated. Kira has fully replaced Light in every space except one, the mask the world still sees. As Light kills more, he justifies more. The more he justifies, the more divine he feels. But divinity has a cost. Isolation. His father fears him. His sister worries about him. Misa clings to him. The world reveres him, but no one understands him. Except L. L does not simply pursue Kira. He exposes Light's inner war. Every conversation with L pulls a thread in Light's psyche that he cannot afford to unravel. Light doesn't just want to defeat L. He wants to erase the part of himself that L illuminates. When Light kills L, it is not just a strategic victory. It is a spiritual amputation. He severs the last piece of his humanity. From that moment forward, Light Yagami dies metaphorically. Only Kira remains. Years pass. The story enters a quiet era, a period of calm tyranny. Light rules the world with invisible fingers. He no longer pretends to be a student, no longer pretends to be a friend, no longer pretends to be a son. These years are the most terrifying because they reveal the truth. Light does not miss being human. He does not mourn. He does not reflect. He evolves. But evolution isn't always progress. Sometimes it is decay wearing the mask of purpose. Then comes Nier. Nier is not L's successor. He is the purified version of what L represented. Detachment without sentiment, logic without hesitation. Nier sees Light not as a genius, but as an inevitability, a boy who received too much power, with too little ethical foundation. Nier does not admire him, fear him, or hate him. Nier reduces him to mathematics. Light, a man who crowned himself a god, is now nothing more than an equation, and equations cannot lie. The warehouse is not simply a location, it is an unmasking, a spiritual autopsy. When Light is cornered, when his perfect identity fractures, when the mask shatters, he becomes something raw and unfiltered. He screams, he laughs, he pleads, he denies, he confesses. He becomes a mosaic of every identity he's ever worn. The prodigy, the son, the god, the child. The sliding mask doesn't crack, it snaps. Everything Light tried to hide erupts at once, and beneath it all, we finally see him, a lonely, brilliant, terrified boy who wanted to matter. A child who mistook control for justice, a mind that mistook authority for morality, a heart that mistook fear for love. When Light runs, bleeding, through the memories of his past, classrooms, sunlight, textbooks, He is not running toward life. He is running toward the version of himself he abandoned the day he wrote that first name, and when he collapses on the staircase, the god disappears, the boy returns, for a moment, a brief, trembling moment. He looks like someone who could have lived an ordinary, beautiful life, if not for the boredom, if not for the brilliance, if not for the ego, if not for the mask. Light dies not as Kira, not as a god, not as a mastermind. He dies as a child, who confused power with purpose, identity with destiny, control with justice, perfection with divinity, and that is his tragedy. Light Yagami thought he needed the mask to change the world, but it was the mask that destroyed him. This is the sliding mask, not the one Light wore, the one we all wear, the face we show, the voice we hide, the self we fear, the self we unleash. Death Note is not a story about a killer. It is a story about identity, about how easily morality dissolves, when the mask becomes more real than the face behind it. Sometimes, all it takes to cross the line between justice and obsession is a single name: fade to black.